I'm joined here with Irrigation Association President Bryan Wynen with Springwise Facility Management and Wisco Irrigation in our series of interviews for Smart Irrigation Month. Bryan, can you please introduce yourself, tell us a little about you and why you wanted to become a volunteer leader at IA, ultimately becoming president this year?
Well, as you said, there's several different companies. My name is Bryan Wynen. I'm from South Bend, Indiana. Born and raised here. Started in the irrigation industry when I was the age of 7. My dad had started a local irrigation company, and I think I was the default babysitter, was going along with dad to the job sites. I learned fittings very quickly, so that was my job, typically running back and forth to the parts trailer. And the best part of the day was always going out to lunch, because our family didn't eat out very much. So if I did a good job, I got to go to work, and I was happy to do that with him. As far as being in the irrigation industry, I started to get a little more serious in the late 70s. As I got older, I began to realize this is a rather large industry throughout not only the country, but worldwide as well, and began to start researching hydraulics and proper design. My dad was doing a great job and I was following in his footsteps, but I knew there was more out there. During high school, actually, I was one of the youngest people in most of the manufacturing courses. We didn't have courses in the Midwest on irrigation design and irrigation installation, so I would go to the courses of the major manufacturers at the time that they were putting on at the distributorships, and began to learn a lot about the new products and techniques, and began to put them into play at my father's company. My first IA show came in 1983 when a gentleman named Terry Smith, who I had a lot of respect for, out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, had an irrigation design. His company was called Irrigation Design. Encouraged us to go to Kansas City for, at that time, which was one of the newer, they hadn't had a lot of shows yet, but for the Irrigation Association. And, we decided to go, and we began to realize that as manufacturers kind of steer you into their products, and that once we went to the show, we began to realize the wide array of products and different things that were available to us as a company. It didn't take long after that. We hired a consultant. I got my first IA certification as an auditor, and grew to be the 7th largest irrigation company in the country in the late 80s. Used a consultant, the late Charles Vanderkoy, to help us as well, who also talked to me more about different aspects of irrigation, which was very helpful. You mentioned being a leader, and at a young age, my dad put me in charge of different things. I don't really find myself as a leader. I find myself as a person within a group that helps work with the group, and as a team, we try to do the best we can with the things presented with us. And so, I was asked to join. I was overly thrilled when I got the phone call from Jay that they were considering me for the board of directors, for the board. And they told me I had to wait a year, which was more than fine. I've been in the industry for almost 35, 40 years at this point. So a year later, I got a call, and they had nominated me to be on the board of directors, which was absolutely thrilling for me. Unfortunately, my father had passed away a number of years ago and was not here to see any of this. But after a stay on the board of directors, they asked me to be the treasurer. And so that put me on the executive team, which put me on a path to becoming the president, which I'm very humbled to be at the top of this wonderful organization. I was in the board of directors with industry giants that, names that are on sprinklers and different things, where I'm a contractor from the Midwest who happened to have a couple of companies that did fairly well. But I was humbled by that, and it's just been a wonderful experience, and I've met so many great people in this process.
Great. So as we know, it's Smart Irrigation Month here in July. So what does Smart Irrigation Month mean to you, and how do you and your company practice that?
So Smart Irrigation Month, to me, is a reminder that we need to continue to be very careful of our element water. We practice it 12 months out of the year. But we just need that constant reminder. July is a great month for it to be because obviously it's warmer in our area, especially, and people use more water. But we try to practice that through the new products and technology that are available to let people know that, not only would it save them money on their water bills or their electrical usage if they pump, but that it's good, not only for them, but also for the earth not to waste this water.
So this year's theme for Smart Irrigation Month is Smart Irrigation Sustainable Solutions. And that's a word we hear a lot recently, is sustainable. So what do you think when you hear the words sustainable solutions? And do you have examples that you can provide within the industry for how maybe you or your other companies are kind of making sustainable solutions?
Yeah, sustainable solutions to me is a solution that's not a quick fix that could be changed or goes away after a while. Some people save, they think they're saving water and they cut their water usage in half. Well, it didn't really change how your sprinkler system's operating, and eventually you'll probably turn that controller back up again. A sustainable solution is getting a smart controller, getting a sensors if that is something that you can work with within your irrigation system. Pressure regulation. People don't realize the difference in water usage just by regulating their pressure. Just doing match precipitation on nozzles, and watering similar plants with similar zones. So that way you don't have to overwater one area and underwater another in order to try to get the proper water for the plant material. One of the examples that I have is we've been working at a university since the late 70s. In 2007, they brought people together. They had reached the capacity of their infrastructure. They were pumping just under 1 billion gallons of water annually, and their systems were at their maximum. So they were trying to decide, how do we expand our systems? How do we put in larger piping in order to accommodate the continued growth the university was seeing? We began to discuss, instead of infrastructure changes, what about changes, because irrigation was a majority of the use of the water. Brought in a central control system, brought in a weather station, changed a lot of the plant material from spray to drip, continued over a 5-year period to do all these changes using master valve, flow meter regulation, pressure regulation, and continued those. The university expanded. We added another 4,000 rotary heads and another 250 to 300,000 feet of drip tubing to new buildings and new projects. So here we were trying to save water, but yet putting in more product. In the end, by 2012, they had actually gone down to pumping about 50% of what they were pumping before. And now their infrastructure, they figured, was good for another 10 to 15 years without having to make any major changes based on a lot of the water changes that we made in the irrigation. University also did a lot with changing fixtures within their structures to be more water conservative. So they were doing their part, but when you're using 70% of your water for irrigation, you're needing to make big changes in irrigation. And so that was a sustainable situation that we were able to participate in, and very proud of being able to do that.
Well, really appreciate talking with you today. Again, this is Bryan Wynen, the president of the Irrigation Association. And for those of you watching, make sure to get on smartirrigationmonth.org, where we have a number of resources for how you and your companies can help celebrate Smart Irrigation Month as well. Thank you for your time, and stay tuned for more interviews.